Ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes, the agenda will be started. This amazing event is presented by Public Health Faculty, Diponegoro University.
In 1985, for the first time, we accept new students lintas jalur under the name of Public Health Study Programs or PSKM, Faculty of Medicine, Diponegoro University. Since 1987, PSKM began admitting new students for jalur regular for the first time. In 1993, PSKM changed to the Faculty of Public Health based on the decree of the Minister of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia. Faculty of Public Health Vision. In the year of 2024, Faculty of Public Health becomes an excellent higher education institution in the field of public health at the international level. Faculty of Public Health has the following objectives: to produce graduates who have the spirit of Pancasila, competent and have social awareness, complete, communicator, professional, leader, entrepreneur, thinker, educator, and miracle, manager, innovator, researcher, apprentice, communitarian, leader, and educator. To produce innovative research, publications in reputable national and international journals, attainment in intellectual property rights, contribution in solving public health problems. To organize transparent and accountable public health higher education, organizing cooperation and partnership in the field of three pillars of higher education. Organizational structure in Faculty of Public Health is leader, namely Dean, Vice Dean for Academic and Student Affairs, Vice Dean for Resource, Division of Administration, namely Manager or Head of Administration, Supervisor or Head of Subdivision of Academic and Student Affairs, Supervisor or Head of Subdivision of Finance and Employee Affairs, Supervisor or Head of Subdivision of General and Asset Management. Faculty of Public Health, Managing Study Programs, Public Health Undergraduate Study Program, Superior Accreditation, Master of Public Health Study Program, Superior Accreditation, Master of Environmental Health Study Program, Superior Accreditation, Master of Health Promotion Study Program, Superior Accreditation, and Doctor of Public Health Study Program, Very Good Accreditation. The implementations of the education program in Faculty of Public Health is supported by domestic and overseas graduate lecturers. Currently, the faculty has 33 lecturers with doctoral degree, 50% of 66 lecturers with various scientific fields. They are health administration and policy, public health nutrition, epidemiology and tropical disease, occupational safety and health, environmental health, biostatistics and population, and health promotion. In the learning process, Faculty of Public Health supported by education staff as much as from various backgrounds, competencies, and professionalism. Infrastructure, building and laboratories. Building A, the Dune Building, 2 floors. Building B, lecture rooms, 3 floors. Building C, lecture rooms, 2 floors, meeting room. And the Building D, secretariat room, lecture room for graduate programs, computer laboratories, public health laboratories, unit room of faculty support, and hall. Building E, student activities room. Building F, student activity center, praying room, and canteen. Building G, lecture room and secretariat room of other graduate study programs, library, archive room, and study activities room. Other facilities, canteen, futsal field, basketball field, volleyball field, and other sport facilities. To support student learning process, Faculty of Public Health has 6 laboratories. Laboratory of Basic Biomedicine, Laboratory of Environmental Health, Laboratory of Occupational and Safety Health, Laboratory of Epidemiology and Entomology, Laboratory of Public Health Nutrition, and Laboratory of Audio-Visual Aids. Faculty of Public Health has international programs since 2016 in order to support Diponegoro University to be the world-class university. The programs are International Conference of Public Health, Tropical and Coastal Development, and summer course followed by students from many countries. Student activities are residency, partner village, and outbound. Superior programs are Study Center of Environment and Toxic Materials, Study Center of Neglected Tropical Disease, Study Center of Reproductive Health and HIV/AIDS, Study Center Public Health Nutrition, and Study Center Health Policy.
As one of 5 leaders of public health in Indonesia, That means we have responsibility to improve public health in regional, national, and international level. So, this event is a great opportunity to exchange information about what is happening right now in the world and their solution for local, regional, and global scale. Next, we can build network in research and community empowerment among countries to increase the quality of life in each countries. It can also be a media to raise awareness and experience for researchers, students, policymakers, and stakeholders. Now, for the government and stakeholders, this conference can help to formulate strategies for sustainable development in public health field. And finally, we hope this event can improve knowledge and students' ability to present the result of their research in public health matters. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third International Conference on Public Health for Tropical and Coastal Development, Lifestyle and Environmental Changes, Challenges on Public Health in Tropical and Coastal Areas to support SDGs achievements. Okay, now let's greet our amazing speakers. First off, we have His Excellency, the Republic of Indonesia's Minister of Health, Letjen TNI, Dr. Terawan Agus Putranto, Spesialis Radiologi. His Excellency, Director of Diponegoro University, Professor Dr. Yosjohan Utama, Magister of Law. Good morning, sir. The Honorable Dean of Public Health, Diponegoro University, Dr. Budiono, Master of Public Health. Good morning, Doctor. The Honorable Speaker from Institute for Population and Social Research, Mahidol University, Thailand, Professor Yotin Sawangdi, PhD. Hello, Professor. How are you? The Honorable Speaker from the University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia, Professor Amanda Lee. Hello, Professor. How are you?
Fine, thank you very much.
The Honorable Speaker from Medical Officer for Communicable Disease, World Health Organization, Representative Indonesia, Dr. Shalala Rafael Ahmadova. Good morning, Doctor. How are you? The Honorable Speaker from Diponegoro University, Hanifa Maherdeni, Bachelor of Science in Public Health, MPH, PhD. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
The Honorable Speaker from Tufts University, Boston, USA, Professor Elena Naumova, PhD. Good morning, Professor. How are you? The Honorable Speaker from Queensland University of Technology, Brisbane, Australia, Rhys Hinchcliffe, PhD. Good morning. How are you? The Honorable Speaker from UNICEF Indonesia, Dr. Armunanto, MPH. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
The Honorable Speaker from National Taiwan University, Professor Hun Chen Sai, PhD. Good morning, Professor. How are you? The Honorable all Deans and Vice Deans at Diponegoro University. And finally, dearest all participants of this conference. Good morning, everyone. My name is Giselle Tenia Maher. You can call me Giselle. I am one of the students of Faculty of Public Health Diponegoro University, and today I am presenting as your MCs. It is an exciting event that all of you are here to share and to discuss the current topics in public health. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is supported by Rector of Diponegoro University, IAKMI, Indonesian Public Health Association, Persakmi, or the Indonesian Public Health Professional Union, BTN, or Bank Tabungan Negara Indonesia, Inbio Indonesia, and finally, Bio Farma. Dear ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to sing the national anthem of Indonesia Raya. We would like to request you to please stand up.
Indonesia tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahmu. Di sanalah aku berdiri, jadi pandu ibumu. Indonesia kebangsaanku, bangsa dan tanah airku. Marilah kita bersatu, Indonesia bersatu. Hiduplah tanahku, hiduplah negeriku, bangsaku, rakyatku semuanya. Bangunlah jiwanya, bangunlah badannya, untuk Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang ku cinta. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang ku cinta. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya.
And now we would like to request you to please be seated. Before we start our agenda, let us pray together. Prayer begins. Prayers finished. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for welcoming speech. So, the Honorable Dean, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Giselle. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Guest of honor, Minister of Health Republik of Indonesia, Letnan Jenderal TNI Purnawirawan Dr. Terawan Agus Putranto, radiologist, consultant. Rektor of Universitas Diponegoro, Profesor Dr. Yos Johan Utama, SHM. Vice Rectors, Deans, Vice Deans, distinguished speakers, our national and international colleagues, Chair of the Organizing Committee, Associate Professor Dr. Marta Irene Kartasurya, MSc, PhD, sponsors, all conference guests, and participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the third International Conference on Public Health for Tropical and Coastal Development, ICOPH TCD 2020, which organized by the Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Diponegoro. The success of the first ICOPH TCD in 2016 and the second in 2018 encouraged us to continue this conference to the third one. We designed this event as a discussion platform for experts, researchers, and practitioners from Indonesia and abroad, as well as policymakers at regional, national, and global levels. We are pleased because this year's participants also come from 5 foreign countries such as Rwanda, Thailand, Taiwan, Australia, and the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, Faculty of Public Health Universitas Diponegoro, as one of the Faculty of Public Health founding fathers in Indonesia, has been involved in solving public health problems at regional and national levels, including COVID-19 control programs. Since the pandemic hit our country, Faculty of Public Health Universitas Diponegoro has been involved in various task forces in collaboration with the Central Java Provincial Government, the Central Java Provincial Head Office, and also the Regional Research Council of Central Java to create strategies and policies to control the spread of COVID-19 in Central Java. At the national level, we are also participated in formulating a strategy to deal with COVID-19 in collaboration with Indonesian Board for National Development Planning. A series of webinars for promotion and education on prevention and control of COVID-19 have also been held. We are also grateful to be able to work together with UNICEF in giving assistance for the implementation of health programs, such as immunization, achieving minimal health service standards, child development monitoring during this COVID-19 pandemic. As Faculty of Public Health members, besides education, conducting research, serving the community for maintaining public health are our obligation. The experience in working together with Ministry of Health, Health District Office, as well as international agency is a valuable lesson for us and for our students. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to note that this conference covers various areas in public health. There, administration and health policy, biostatistics and demography, environmental health, health promotion, occupational health and safety, epidemiology and tropical disease, public health nutrition, maternal and child health, and health entomology. These fields contribute to the general topic of our conference, which is lifestyle and environmental changes, challenges on public health in tropical and coastal areas to support SDGs achievements. We realize that our current health condition is influenced by the environment that is changing. The change in environment and the environmental damage are affected by human behaviors. The role of public health includes 5 levels of prevention as well as health promotion. Communicable and non-communicable disease prevention, as well as environmental and occupational impact on public health, are very important for maintaining human health. Raising the awareness that health prevention and promotion is much better than treatment has to be endorsed all the time and all opportunities, especially at this time of COVID-19 pandemic. We wish that this conference will also a significant contribution in achieving mainly the third goal of SDGs, which is good health and well-being, and some other goals that are related to public health. In responding to these conditions, alternative recommendations and innovation based on national or international research evidence are needed. It is important to keep pace with the current global change acceleration. This conference is a great opportunity for collaboration between institutions in education, research, and innovation. I would like to acknowledge our great appreciation to the keynote speaker of this conference, our Minister of Health, Republic of Indonesia, and also my gratitude to all distinguished speakers in these 2 days ahead, who will also share their valuable experiences in research and policy in regional and global arena. This gathering of experts in the field of science and technology to improve the quality of public health education is very important chance. Even though we are currently in the pandemic condition, that does not allow all of us to meet face-to-face in Universitas Diponegoro Semarang, Indonesia. We hope that all of you can receive our warm hospitality and have a great experience in this conference. Thank you. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Budiono, for the lovely welcoming speech. For the opening speech, we would like to request the Honorable Rector of Diponegoro University, Director, the time is yours.
Honorable keynote speakers, Lieutenant General TNI, Dr. Terawan Agus Putranto, SPRAD, Consultant, the Minister of Health, Republic of Indonesia. Associated Professor Yotin Sawangdi, PhD, from Mahidol University, Thailand. Associated Professor Rhys Hinshelif from Queensland University of Technology, Australia. Associate Professor Kun Sien Chai from National Taiwan University, Taiwan. Professor Amanda Lee from University of Queensland, Australia. Professor Elena Naumova, PhD from Tufts University, USA. Dr. Armunanto, PhD from UNICEF, representative from for Java and Bali. Dr. Salah Rafael Ahmadova from WHO, representative for Indonesia. Associate Professor Halifa Maherdeni from Faculty of Public Health, University Diponegoro. Vice Rectors, Deans, Dean of Faculty of Public Health, all conference guests and participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On behalf of Diponegoro University, as a rector, it is my honor to welcome you to the 3rd International Conference on the Public Health for Tropical and Coastal Development, ICOPH 2020. This conference is a routine activity of the Faculty of Public Health, which is held every 2 years. It is also a celebration of the 63rd anniversary Universitas Diponegoro. We are proud to present this event to become a forum for the dissemination of policies from the governments, experience from the international institutions and stakeholders in health sector, and also research results from researchers as think tank for the advancement of the science in the health sector. All contribute together to create a healthy society. This is also in line with the theme of our university anniversary, diversity, synergy to strengthen research university in the new normal. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, this conference raised to the topic of lifestyle and environmental change, challenges on public health in tropical and coastal areas to support SDGs achievements. Health problems such as the COVID-19 pandemic that we are currently experiencing are the impact of change in lifestyle and the environment. I sincerely hope that though this conference we can act quickly together and precisely and appropriately to help community from the threat of communicable and non-communicable disease. Diponegoro University, as a university that has the resources of public health experts, with good laboratory support, always move forward to become an excellent research university and ready to support community health. On this great event, speakers from 5 countries will certainly share important experiences and knowledge for all of us to face environmental change. Hopefully, it can form a strong network between University Diponegoro, especially the Faculty of Public Health, and universities from all over the world to make excellent innovation in overcoming health problems in Indonesia and the world. We hope this conference can bring valuable inspiration for the better future of life and environment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Yos, for your opening speech. And before proceeding to the next agenda, we would like to take a viral photo shoot. So everyone, turn on your camera. Okay, is everyone ready? Don't forget to smile and strike a pose, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna start the countdown. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, we got it? Okay, thank you everyone. Now, thank you Professor Yos for attending this event and giving us a lovely welcoming speech. Which means now, the 3rd International Conference on Public Health for Tropical and Coastal Development is officially open. Please give a big applause, everyone. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's start the conference agenda with our keynote speaker. Let's welcome the Republic of Indonesia's Minister of Health, Letjen Dr. Terawan Agus Putranto, Spesialis Radiologi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam damai sejahtera untuk kita semua. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Menurut teori Profesor H.L. Bloom, faktor yang dominan pengaruhnya terhadap derajat kesehatan masyarakat adalah lingkungan yang merupakan 45% dan perilaku 30%. Saat ini Indonesia menghadapi triple burden disease, penyakit infeksi emerging yang terbagi menjadi new emerging dan re-emerging disease. Salah satu penyakit pandemi new emerging yaitu COVID-19 serta penyakit menular dan juga penyakit tidak menular atau degeneratif. Hal ini sangat berpengaruh terhadap derajat kesehatan masyarakat Indonesia. Perubahan iklim atau climate change sangat mempengaruhi perubahan pola penyakit. Indonesia sebagai negara tropis dan kepulauan menjadi rawan terdampak climate change dengan penyakit infeksi tropis seperti malaria, demam berdarah, dan chikungunya yang jumlah kasusnya terus meningkat. Dalam menghadapi perubahan iklim diperlukan adaptasi dan juga mitigasi risiko. Salah satunya yang berdampak besar adalah perubahan perilaku pada masyarakat melalui gerakan masyarakat hidup sehat atau GERMAS, perilaku hidup bersih dan sehat atau BHBS, pemberantasan sarang nyamuk atau PSN, dan sanitasi total berbasis masyarakat atau STBM. Upaya-upaya tersebut diharapkan dapat mengurangi risiko terjadinya penyakit-penyakit yang timbul akibat dari perubahan iklim. Dalam adaptasi dan mitigasi perubahan iklim, diperlukan kerjasama antara multisektor atau peran masyarakat dan juga pentingnya peran akademisi dalam penyediaan informasi dan data berbasis ilmiah. Melalui konferensi ilmiah ini, semoga dapat meningkatkan pengetahuan dan keterampilan para akademisi dalam mendukung Indonesia dan dunia yang lebih sehat. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi 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 Om.
Thank you, Dr. Terawan, for the amazing speech. And for the next event, we will have a video performance that uniquely represents the cultural diversity in our lovely Semarang city. It's called Semarangan Dance, and it is actually a combination between a Chinese culture and our local culture, which is Javanese culture. As we all know, the Semarang city itself have so many ethnicity and so many cultures, like from Arab, China, and the local itself is Javanese. And this dance particularly showcased the combination between Chinese and Javanese, and you can see that on the clothes and the dance movement itself. So, we proudly present to you the Semarangan Dance. Wow, what an amazing performance, right? As you can see on the beginning, this dance is performed by Studio 8, and Studio 8 actually have won so many competitions, both national and international level. Now, before we go to the plenary session, I have some announcement for you guys. The first is for all the audience, please don't forget to fill the attendance form. The link will be given through chat at the end of the session. And next, you may write your question in the Q&A section. Please don't forget to mention your name and to whom you address the question to. You may ask in Bahasa Indonesia or English, but it'll be better for the speaker to understand if you write it in English. I will repeat one more time. For all the audience, please don't forget to fill the attendance form. The link will be given through chat at the end of the session. Next, you may write your question in the Q&A section. Please don't forget to mention your name and who you address the question to. You may ask in Bahasa Indonesia or English, but it'll be better for the speaker to understand if you write it in English. For the plenary session, we would like to invite our amazing moderator, Dr. Zahra Saluhia, MPH, PhD. And now I will mention some of her profile from her CV, which are Dr. Zahra obtained her dentistry from University of Indonesia. She pursued her master's degree at University of Hawaii, United States of America. Then she pursued her doctoral degree at University of Exeter, United Kingdom. You can see some of her amazing journal publication, book chapters, technicals, and other reports here. So, let's welcome, with a big applause, Dr. Zahra Saluhia. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, Giselle. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
Okay, this is my turn. Okay, thank you, Giselle. Yeah.
Welcome.
His Excellency Rector and Vice Rector Diponegoro University, Honorable Dean and Vice Dean of Faculty Public Health, Diponegoro University, distinguished speakers and guests, all lecturers, fellow students, and all participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Semoga kita semua dalam keadaan sehat. Good morning to all of you, all participants. I hope all of you is fine now. Welcome to the plenary session of the International Conference on Public Health and Tropical and Coastal Development held by Faculty of Public Health Diponegoro University, Semarang, Indonesia. This international conference is regularly held by Faculty of Public Health every 2 years. Our theme of this year is Lifestyle and Environmental Change, Challenge on Public Health in Tropical and Coastal Areas to Support SDGs Achievement. That already mentioned by our rectors, this conference is also conducted as a part of celebrating the 63rd Diponegoro University anniversary. Yeah, unfortunately for this year, we have a difficult time. I think it's all over the world, yeah, because of COVID-19 pandemic. So make us unable to meet in person as usual due to social restriction, so that we hold on online conference. Hopefully, this conference also will be beneficial to everybody. So today, I'm Zahra Saluhia, will be serving as your moderator in this session. So to all participants who have already joined in this link, I hope you are all in a good health and could actively participate in this interesting session until the end. And for your friend haven't joined yet, please ask them to join immediately via the Zoom link, which is provided by the organizing committee, because we will begin this session soon. Before we begin to listen the outstanding presentation from our speakers, whom I believe will enrich our insight and knowledge regarding the theme of this conference, I would like to read the sequence of this session. We have 4 speakers come from several countries and institutions. First, Associate Professor Dr. Yotin Sawangdi from Institute for Population and Social Research, Mahidol University, Thailand. He is my old friend. Hello, Dr. Yotin. How are you?
Very good. Good morning, Dr. Shah.
Morning. Yeah.
I'm very happy to see everyone here.
Okay. Yeah. Secondly is Professor Dr. Amanda Lee from School of Public Health, Faculty of Medicine, University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia. How are you, Professor Amanda? I saw you. Okay.
Very well. Thank you very much. Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi. Over there also still already morning or still?
It's just nearly lunchtime.
Okay. And the third is Dr. Salala Ahmadova. She is a medical officer for communicable disease, WHO Indonesia. Maybe haven't joined yet. And the last one, Associate Professor Dr. Hanifa Maherdeni from Faculty of Public Health di Diponegoro University Semarang. Halo, selamat pagi.
Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi.
Salam.
Halo, Prof. Amanda.
Yes, Hanifa. Nice to see you here.
Yeah, nice to see you virtually, yeah. Each speaker will talk for about 20 minutes and followed by 10-minute discussion. And discussion will be in place at the end of the session after our speaker finish presenting the paper. And already mentioned by the MC, for all participants, I want just to remind you, if you have any question, please write in the QA forum. You can see in your Zoom. Yeah, so the speaker will see your question, and don't forget to write your name and your institution, and of course your question, and to whose speaker you want to address your question. We prefer if you write your question in English, but if not, okay, you can use Bahasa, and the organizing committee will help you to translate it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we begin now for the first speaker. Dr. Yotin, you are ready for give presentation? Associate Professor Dr. Yotin Sawangdi from Institute for Population and Social Research, Mahidol University. He will present with the entitled Applying Mixed Methodology to Study Maternal and Child Health in Coastal Area. Before Dr. Yotin deliver his presentation, I would like to read his curriculum vitae. Maybe the organizing committee can show Professor Yotin's CV in the screen. Okay. Associate Professor Dr. Yotin Sawangdi from Thailand. Office address, Institute for Population and Social Research, Mahidol University, Salaya, Putamonton, Nakhon Pathom, Thailand. And his education, BA in Political Science, Government and Politics, Ramkhamhaeng University, Thailand. And his MA in Demography from Institute for Population and Social Research, Mahidol University, Thailand. And his second MA in Sociology from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, USA. And his PhD in Sociology from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, USA. Areas of competence is in poverty, energy consumption, environment, migration and land use, socio-economic development, health and mortality, mixed method and multi-level analysis, research methodology and sampling design, action research, and operation research. Course and workshop, multivariate analysis and mixed method for PhD, for MA, and calculating coverage indicators for measure and evaluation. Okay, please welcome Dr. Yotin. Are you ready to present your paper for 20 minutes?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to come here and have a chance to present some of my experience and some of my recent work. It is about applying mixed methodology study maternal and child health in coastal area. You may imagine that right now, everywhere in the world, we are facing with a global warming. Importantly, Thailand, not only some part, not far from the Gulf of Siam. At the same time, we also have some area, such as Phuket, Krabi, Trang, and some island in the Andaman. As a result, we're facing with many maternal mortality and infant and child mortality. Our government try to following sustainable development goal. At the same time, doing research and using some research finding and output to promote innovation or guidelines and strategies that can reduce not only illness and increasing survival probability among women and her baby, including with children. It is because the nation facing with a very low fertility, growth rate also very low as well. As a result, we want to keep every life alive. Speaking about coastal area in Thailand, mostly small fishing community. Importantly, number of elder persons increased rapidly. It is the consequence of high birth rate in the old day. At the same time, not only the older one, but also, reproductive age women and young children. As a result, it is very important for our scholars to examine some social determinant of health, such as predisposing factor, including with enabling factor that can be related to healthcare utilization and health behavior. Speaking about mixed methodologies, in fact, the definition is the combination or integration between quantitative method, which is the data mostly come from numbers, either secondary data, information from data bank, information from data mining or cloud. At the same time, we may conduct survey, large sample size. After that, applying some statistical technique to evaluate and testing some hypotheses that we expect to find some result. Normally, speaking about mixed method, there are several types. I will talk later on. But it is about the thing that we can bring qualitative research methodology, which is developed from some of anthropological approach and ethnographic study mixed together. The advantage of qualitative research methodology is it allows us to come to the community, to come to the area, to visit the place where having phenomena or undergrounded theory approach, that we are able to observing and sometimes we are able to conduct focus group discussion, small group discussion, in-depth interview with participants and key informants, over our target knowledge. Particularly, we try to look for tacit knowledge that can explain or complement our quantitative result. The thing that I mentioned right now seems like skill onto the design that under the sequential exploratory mixed method design. I will mention this again. Talking about mixed methodology, in fact, it is not just bring information from quantitative method and qualitative method, serving each other or support each other. Importantly, it will relate to the concept of multiple methods of collecting data as well, such as some scholars who were attending this conference, or even myself, we may conducting information from Ministry of Finance about investment. That could be the secondary data source. Right, while we may collecting information from precipitation that can measure and rainfall that can measure global warming because it fluctuates all the time. We may using information from road department using to measure the surface of the road and type of road. And some of my project, we using global positioning system or GPS equipment to collect some location of the community or some area where having some phenomena such as highly of infant die, highly rate of maternal die, or highly of some infectious disease such as dengue fever, for instance. At the same time, we may applying participation observation, we may using focus group discussion, and we may using in-depth interview, aerial photo, or many data set to mix together. As a result, data that we bring from not only primary data and secondary data, we can aggregate under the quantitative method, then estimate. The concept will be similar to the mixed model or multi-level analysis. Besides information that I have been presenting, talking about mixed methodologies, the linkage between information that we have been providing in the questionnaire and the guideline or some question that have been providing in in-depth interview guideline or semi-structured guideline, it needs to be linked, okay? Otherwise, we cannot proven whether our hypothesis is correct or wrong. At the same time, it may be difficult for us to link information or the result from qualitative research methodology to explain some part of our output that derive from quantitative method. Now, look at some social determinant of health. Clearly found around the world that the factor that affecting healthcare, health situation, and health problem anywhere, mostly related to household and individual, which is micro level. Both demand side and supply side or provider that we concentrating on some variable or factor that have been preventing from department or Ministry of Health, for example. Many of my study formally are using only quantitative method. The advantage of quantitative technique allow me to see pattern, trend, degree, differential. And then I have some question, why this independent variable is very strong and having positive effect on child survival probability after controlling for many of covariate. This is just an example. I have no idea. I tried to review from former research, and the answer is not quite new. The answer is not quite related to the result that I expect. For this reason, I rather applying qualitative approach by returning to the community where I conducting quantitative research. Using focus group discussion, in-depth interview, small group discussion, and participation, even if in short period, at least it allows me to understand many things. These are the conservative method that many scholars applying when they're conducting quantitative survey. The interviewer visit woman's house, inform her about the purpose of our survey based on the information that we have been provided in informed consent. After that interview and doing some data entry and estimate. Therefore, it is important to clarify and bring some knowledge from qualitative research methodology, sometimes to confirm, sometimes to clarify, sometimes it can expand our new knowledge or some knowledge we never heard before. For example, this is some of my experience. I conduct focus group discussion with women who were living in some community in coastal area about technique that they using when some of their family members have some illness, because the hospital or health center is a little bit far and road surface is not quite convenient for them to service. Information from this study can help me to understand a lot. Let me showing you something that related to equation. This is the starter result. I examine, effect of, I believe that everyone can see this starter result. I examine place of residence, rural and urban, and concentrating on number of health personnel. The dependent variable is antenatal care, because it is the very good strategy to save women and children life. The result from logistic regression after controlling many things give me to see probability. This is the probability to use A and C. But this number is quite difficult to understand as well. For this reason, I calculate the probability. Finally, this graph showing me that, sorry, let me move this a little bit. Concentrating on number of health personnel, this x-axis, this number of health personnel. You can see that when number of health personnel increase in the communities, people who were living in urban area, rural equal to 0. Probability, I mean people means the women who were under reproductive age and have some baby or children, okay? When they have 1 or 2 health personnel, the probability that they come to ANC antenatal care is increasing quite fast. But when concentrating to the number of health personnel at the same number, either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6, those who were in rural area, chance that they're gonna come to health center to receiving some ANC service or anything quite low. We need to wait about 7, 8, 9, 10 or whatever. You can see that the graph increasing very slow. Even if number of health personnel increasing, we cannot conclude this. Even if we able to say that it is because of this culture, it is because of geographic problem, it is because of rainy season. No. That is not correct. If we want to understand why it is increased quite slow in rural area, even if we have highly number of health personnel, at the same time, what happening in urban area, even if number of health personnel is not high, but popularity has been increasing so fast. For this reason, we may need to return back to the community and using some qualitative approach, to answer this issue. Next, talking about qualitative research methodologies, Sometimes the design may starting with the questionnaire design first, sending our interviewer visit the communities and interview reproductive age women who having children. You and I may having same experience. This picture telling about Thai community that not far from the ocean. The purpose of mixed methodologies, let me repeat again. There are number of reasons that we applying mixed method here. First, we starting with quantitative method and followed by qualitative. The data is under parallel approach, meaning that both quantitative and qualitative starting at the same time. It needs to be two teams working together. Dr. Farid may concentrating on quantitative. Dr. Matha may the leader of qualitative. And they going to the same community. However, quantitative method need to start ahead at least 15 days. After that, sending all questionnaire to qualitative team. This questionnaire work as a screening form. Dr. Matha will select some questionnaire or some respondent or some household that have women or children that related to her area of interest, then invite the person that she has been selecting to be participant in focus group discussion, small group discussion, and in-depth interview. This design is similar to triangulation or confirmation. Mostly use this under convergent technique. And we always found that, people who were working with Ministry of Public Health using this method to measure successfulness of program implementation. As a result, information in the questionnaire and guideline for qualitative approach need to be related. Next, the mixed methodology sometimes starting with quantitative research methodologies. This is very popular right now, and most of my work is quantitative first, and then after receiving some output, mean that I have been using some multivariate analysis. The advantage of multivariate analysis is allow us to control many factors, many social determinants of health and concentrating on something. After that, we applying some qualitative approach, go to the same communities, go to the same women, invite them for focus group discussion. Information from qualitative able to support or complement, or clarify some issue that we want to know. Okay, the result from this complementarity technique can suggest some idea to policymaker to input some strategies, input some technique into the community when they want to promote some survival probability. The other purpose is try to development new tool, new indicator. Because of the society nowadays is quite complicated. Many of new behavior occurring, many of service, many of lifestyle happen. Sometimes I am applying, qualitative undergrounded theory approach, go to the community myself, spend time by using participation observation, conduct focus group discussion, small group discussion, and in-depth interview. After I receive information, I take all of those for thematic analysis, then develop questionnaire. After that, using factor analysis to group some variable based on principal component analysis. Then I am using structural equation model to construct some indicator. Okay, this one is quite complicated, but sometimes I have to use it starting from grounded theory approach and end up with quantitative method. The initiation approach is using qualitative first and then followed by quantitative. But this one is trying to start some new project, trying to understand the phenomena in some area. Who were the influencer of that community? What kind of social determinant of health that very strong by using qualitative approach. After that, develop questionnaire and survey again. Information from questionnaire can help us to understand trend, pattern, degree, and differential. After that, we are able to estimate or calculate how many person there, how many women, how many children, how many rice that we need to give them for free, how many pampers that we give them, that we can give them, how many shirt, how many sarong, how many things. Without quantitative, we may lack of information that able to estimate. And NGO sometimes using this approach.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes.
Yatin, one more minute.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I have 1 more minute to go. Sorry. As a next, okay, let me explain about the MIC, okay, beside MIC method, then type of MIC methodology design. Sometimes we using sequential exploratory, as I mentioned, starting from quanti and followed by quali, or sometimes starting from quali and then end up with quanti. For convergent, it is like a evaluation technique. Hybrid is integrated. We may starting with quali, quanti, and then quali again. Embedded is the method that we include many data collection approach, such as I mentioned earlier, both GPS, road surface, rainfall, and precipitation. And these are the type of design. The decision is depend on us, depend on our purpose. Speaking about my last slide, statistical technique, in general, we use descriptive statistics when we want to talking about characteristic of our quantitative sample. And most of the rest, we're using some statistical hypothesis testing and multivariate analysis. Software that I'm using right now is Stata and SPSS. The general estimate equation, GEE, logistic regression, Poisson regression, and negative binomial is very important right now. Appreciate it. I think we can share. Appreciate it, Dr. Sarah. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Yotin, thank you for your interesting presentation and valuable contribution to our participants. So maybe next in the discussion, we will give you maybe some question, yeah? Okay, give applause to Dr. Yotin. Again, I remind you, if you have any question, please write down in the QA forum. So I'm sure the speaker would be answer your question. Don't forget, write your name, your institution, and to whom you want to ask. Please mention name of the speaker. Okay, because we have a limited time, now we move to the next speaker, Professor Dr. Amanda Lee from School of Public Health, Faculty of Medicine, University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia. She will talk about a fork in the road steps to healthy, equitable, and sustainable nutrition policy action. Professor Amanda Lee's presentation has been recorded. So before the committee play the recording, I would like to read her CV first. Okay. Professor Amanda Lee, professor in public health policy, work address in School of Public Health, Faculty of Medicine, University of Queensland, Australia. Professional qualification, her PhD in medicine in Sydney, and her BSc in nutrition, postgraduate diploma in diet in Deakin University, and postgraduate diploma business management in Queensland University of Technology, and relevant experience, more than 40 years experience in academia, public sector policy and practice, NGOs, consultant, and in areas of public health nutrition, preventive health, food system, indigenous health, and professional position lead Division of Health Promotion and Equity, University of Queensland, affiliate professor, the University of Queensland, Poche Center for Indigenous Health, and chair Australian Dietary Guidelines Working Committee and HMRC. An honorary appointment, adjunct professor, Griffith University, in Curtin University, in QUT, the University of Melbourne, Deakin University, an advisory position, member steering committee, nutrient reference values, Australia and New Zealand, technical reference group, Australia Health Survey, Canadian Food Guide, and journal publication, more than 80, most recent, about achieving food system transformation insight from a retrospective review of nutrition policy in action in high-income countries, International Journal of Health Policy and Management. That's the recent one. Avoiding health in the COVID pandemic and the Journal Public Health. And book chapter, and article, maybe more than 60. So, but research grant, Australian Medical Research Future Fund, boosting prevention 3, improving food policy and system, Australia Medical Research Future Fund, boosting prevention 7, improving indigenous food security, and HMRC, a better start to life, the Australian Prevention Partnership Center, and Refresh Center's Research Excellence, and professional consultancy, and HMRC, discretionary food, a fit for purpose definition of healthy and unhealthy food, fat and oils. NPY, Women's Council Review of Nutrition Program. And another appointment, Interim Board of Health and Wellbeing Queensland, and co-convener Fancy Public Health Association Australia. So, okay. Please, the organizing committee, playing Professor Dr. Amanda Lee's presentation.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to join you for the third International Conference on Public Health for Tropical and Coastal Development. I'd like to acknowledge all the dignitaries in the room today and also to thank the organising committee, in particular Dr. Martha Kasuria, for the invitation to join you today. I'd also like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land from which I'm joining you today in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, the Jagera and the Turrbal people, and to acknowledge all First Nations people with us today. I'll be talking about a fork in the road, steps to equitable, sustainable nutrition policy action. So like all journeys, it's important for us to first identify where we want to go. And today I'll be working through the evidence that identifies that there is a sweet spot and a sweet destination for us, which is a healthy diet that will be delivering health and well-being, sustainability and equity for all to underscore prosperity. We'll be looking at should something be done, what should be done, how should something be done, and then importantly, what is being done globally and why, and some positive steps and examples to finish with. Importantly, there's different sources of evidence that are used to inform policy making. We've got a lot of information about identifying the problem, but less information when we get down to the context and design of interventions, how should something be done, and even less information then about what we can do as public health practitioners to best influence decisions. So if we look at the first sort of evidence, should something be done globally now through the burden of disease study, we have excellent information that shows that poor diet is now the leading risk factor contributing to burden of disease globally. So in Australasia, that contributes to 15% of deaths and 8% of DALYs, and that's one of the lowest rates in the world. But in Indonesia, that's up to 22% of deaths and 17% of DALYs. The figure in Australia is a bit of a problem, and I'll talk to you about that shortly. But we really need to recognise that this is a global problem, and of course it's very difficult when a third of the world's population are affected in some way by malnutrition. In Australia, the data really hides the inequities associated with poor diet. For example, we have Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who suffer 5 times, that's 500% more type 2 diabetes due to poor diet than non-Indigenous Australians. In Indonesia, the inequity is perhaps exemplified from the fact that in some areas, 32% of households can't afford a healthy diet, but that can increase up to 3/4 of the population in some areas of the country. And this is one of the reasons that underscores the diversity that you see with the range of stunting rates for children under 2 in different provinces throughout Indonesia. So these data highlight that we really need to be more granular in our policy responses and to better target the areas of greater need in our communities. So what about climate change? Well, we do know that human health and planetary health are inextricably linked. And importantly, there's a link between diet and climate change that works 2 ways. What we eat affects climate change affects our food supply and hence what we have to eat. So food insecurity is a really important part of the 2-way relationship there. Australia and Indonesia are together in our challenges around global and tropical regions because the World Economic Forum has predicted that crop yields in our region will decrease by about 20% in a world that is 3% warmer. This will also affect our agriculture, our fisheries and our livestock. So we can work together to tackle these important issues. In terms of what should be done, there's no shortage of targets identified by the UN and others. Particularly these targets are consistent with the Sustainable Development Goals. But it looks a very daunting task to deliver off on all of these requirements. Importantly, a healthy, equitable and sustainable diet can deliver all of these outcomes. So if we work more upstream through the causal pathway of poor diet outcomes, we can see that there's a common way to tick off many of these benefits. In terms of what should be done, food and nutrition security in our area is really affected by two things: gradual change and sudden shocks. So diet shifts fit under the gradual change, and then increasingly we're seeing things like floods, cyclones, heat waves, bushfires increase in intensity and frequency that deliver challenges for our food supply. In our work, we have identified that there's 4 key principles of dietary sustainability. So that question about what can we eat better that will deliver more equitable and also environmentally sustainable outcomes. The first message is to eat according to energy needs. The second is to avoid unhealthy foods and drinks, what are increasingly called ultra-processed foods. Reducing food waste, packaging as well as food itself. 30% of the food produced globally is wasted and not consumed by humans. And fourthly, choose more healthy plant-based options. Now that applies differently to different countries. In terms of what should be done for our diet, we've got a good understanding in both our countries about what dietary recommendations should be for a healthy, equitable, sustainable diet. A challenge that we have is that so few people are able or have the resources or the ability to follow those recommendations. For example, in Australia, less than 4% of our population consume adequate intakes of vegetables. The major problem we have with our diet, though, is this very, very high intake of unhealthy, ultra-processed or discretionary foods and drinks, providing over 35% of the energy intake of adults and 40% of the energy intake of children in our country. So they really displace the healthy foods. We know that this is a problem because they're the major contributor to the poor health outcomes. For example, if Australians followed the dietary guidelines, we would have a reduction in coronary heart disease of 50%, of diabetes of 34%, and importantly, greenhouse gas emissions would also decrease by 25%. So we've got a win-win situation there. The changes that we need to produce an improved diet are quite radical though. This graph shows where we need to eat more of a particular food group is shown in green, when we need to eat less is shown in red. And down the bottom you can see this dramatic increase in discretionary or ultra-processed foods that's really required. So we're talking about a transformation in our diet and therefore in the food systems that deliver the foods that we're choosing. It's not small changes. The other thing that challenges us when we look at what should be done is, for example, in Indonesia, there's been great strides in looking at addressing child stunting. The problem is that, like so many other issues, progress is quite patchy and local capacity varies. So we need to have more granular and local information about what will work in our own communities. This is a real challenge because there's increasingly a range of food system models that identify leverage points for action, but they're not always the best way of identifying what needs to be done at a local level. One example here is actually, if we look at the greenhouse gas footprint by dietary consumption, the solid line here shows current diets Here we have Australian current diet and Indonesian current diet here, and the global greenhouse gas emissions. If we move to a healthy diet, which is the dotted line, there's no room for Australia to alter greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, we need to reduce them. But in Indonesia, there is about 20% more capacity to increase greenhouse gases. And this reflects that in Indonesia, for example, more people would be able to increase intake of animal foods, particularly meat, before we reach that critical threshold of affecting greenhouse gases. Of course, other components that affect environmental sustainability are issues such as water use, biodiversity, etc. A recent publication has identified how healthy diets can be developed from sustainable production in Indonesia, and is really recommended for you to look at. The third question is how something should be done. For example, the global syndemic report developed by Lancet has emphasised that, again, you know, there's this patchy progress. We know exactly what the solutions are, but the problem is political will and public demand for action, for that transformation in our systems that is required. One of the things we've done to better understand how we can do this better and implement these changes is looking at what is being done and why. So we plotted all the policy actions for the most developed economy, the OECD countries, against a framework of nutrition policy actions developed by the World Cancer Research Fund. We found that these countries are very good at measuring the dietary problem and measuring the health outcomes associated with that, but less responsive when it comes to, for example, putting in place policy actions to improve the affordability of basic healthy foods. The other thing we've found is that when you look across all those policy action domains, there is a fair bit of activity around promoting consumption of healthy foods. But when you look at those important policy responses that will reduce and restrict the intake of unhealthy options, really very little policy action is in place. For example, most countries tell their citizens to eat more healthy food, but only 15% say, oh, and by the way, don't eat all those junk foods as well. So we need to be doing more, not just in telling people, but in structural and regulatory interventions to improve diet balance. In Australia, we were interested in why we're encouraged all the time to eat healthy. So we costed what Australians say they're eating in our National Health Survey. This is the dietary costs for a family of 4 per fortnight in Sydney. And then we compared that with what a healthy diet would cost for that same family per fortnight. This is affordability of 30% of household income. And we were very, very surprised to find that a healthy diet is more affordable than a current diet in Australia. So people would save money by changing to a healthy diet. In Australia, that's helped because we have an exemption of 10% on our goods and service tax of basic healthy foods. So we need to retain that as a good example of a current policy setting which really is beneficial to health. The other surprising thing we found was that these junk foods or unhealthy foods contribute 58%. These are all the red foods here. Takeaway foods, alcoholic drinks, soft drinks, things like cakes, biscuits, unhealthy choices contribute 58% of the cost of the diet. So there's 35% energy and 58% of the family budget. So that starts us to think, well, there must be some other driver that's encouraging our current diets to stay the same. Perhaps price isn't as high a motivator for food choice. It could be something like convenience, or it could be that these unhealthy foods are the ones that are most available and perceived to be affordable, and also the most advertised in our society. So perhaps the people that are producing these foods, the food industry that's producing unhealthy choices, might be actively trying to maintain the status quo. To look at some of these influences over individual groups, over decision makers, a PhD student of mine, now postdoc, Catherine Collerton, did some wonderful work on network analysis, just identifying, as shown by these green lines, who's talking to who in Australian nutrition policy making. Now here, the red dots and the circles are the decision makers, the politicians and others that decide on particular policy settings. Surrounded by the orange dots, that are the government officers and bureaucrats, as we would expect. But then we were really surprised to see this group of black circles and triangles that are food industry representatives. So they're the ones that are most likely to be talking to the decision makers about our food system. Where are all the nutritionists, the pink dots, and academics over here, all talking to ourselves? And here, the blue dots, or the non-government agencies, and some nutritionists, the pink group, that are highlighting the problems, but not particularly well connected with the decision makers. Over here is a group I'm very envious of. These are people employed by the food industry whose job it is to actually make the talking points that the food industry representatives use when they're talking to our decision makers. So this suggests we've got a problem in Australia. We saw this happen when we released our dietary guidelines to be equitable, healthy, sustainable diets, and there was a huge backlash from the farming groups and others that did not like that we had addressed sustainability in the guidelines. And as a result, we did need to take out reference to this, the fourth tenet, which is to choose more healthy plant-based options. But we didn't change the models. If you eat dietary guidelines, you reduce carbon footprint by 25% and save water and biodiversity. We just weren't allowed to be seen to be doing that. So that meant that some public health groups didn't then like the dietary guidelines, and we were not able to satisfy them that they were actually as healthy sustainably as we could. So this led us to believe that the commercial determinants of health, the strategies and approaches used by the private sector to promote their products and choices for profit that can be detrimental to health, either of humans or the planet, are really a concern for us. We've seen this recently in the COVID pandemic. So COVID, as you've seen, has exposed many cracks in our social, economic and health systems. This recent report of the activity of commodity industries during the COVID pandemic, called Signalling Virtue, Promoting Harm, highlights some of the commercial activities that are underscoring our health at the moment. One example in this report was actually an Indonesian example on page 26, which dealt with Mondelez and the fact that they were providing PPE to their own workers working on communities via its Coca Life project. So they were signalling that and promoting that globally as being good corporate citizens, but in fact all they were doing was looking after their own workers, which you would expect would be required. They spent $15 million on that globally, but in fact they made an increased profit during the pandemic of 1.51 billion profit during those times. So this was a very cheap project to buy goodwill with the public that really didn't go much more than just meet their normal requirements as employers. So what are we going to do to tackle these commercial determinants of health and the undermining of dietary guideline messages? The first is to identify interests. There's three things we can do. The first one is identifying interests, know who we're dealing with. The second is identify ideas. So some examples here I've talked about is protecting positive public policy, decreasing poverty. For example, some countries are providing COVID welfare supplements where they can afford them, but not all countries can, as you know. Improving food environments by looking at factors that affect the availability, affordability, accessibility, and perhaps some philanthropic or emergency charitable sectors need to be engaged during this time. The third way is to identify institutions. Who can we partner with to help tackle these enormous international consortiums that are undermining our health messages? And there's good examples of different alliances that have been forged to tackle these. We've developed an advocacy framework that allows very, relatively low-income non-government organisations to better harness their advocacy efforts to increase political will, but also try to appeal to the general public to increase their demand for action. Some positive examples is, from working from over 30 years with an Aboriginal community in Central Australia, they had a 12-month project that had renewed efforts to try to better tackle supply and demand in their community. And for the first time, they were able to decrease the proportion of energy from those junk, ultra-processed foods from 45% down to 39%. That was the first time there'd been a reversal. Every other time we measured it was just getting worse over those 30 years. A healthy diet became more affordable. Their reliance on bread to fill up their kids as a cheap source of energy was decreased. They decreased their intake of sugary drinks. They increased fruit and vegetable intake, and then they added to the achievements over the last 40 years where their child stunting rates went from 40% down to now less than 5%. So dramatic challenges were addressed. We know from another community where I was asked to support them in 1980 when we had our first diabetic identified in that community, we put in a submission for 30,000 Australian dollars to improve their takeaway outlet so that they would have healthier options, and that submission was declined because it was thought that these foods, when they were made by local women, might not be meet food safety requirements. So that was interesting that environmental health officers actually opposed our submission, and yet just last year, I was involved in another submission in that community that was funded $15.8 million for renal dialysis chairs in that community. Completely preventable if we'd only been able to improve the takeaway in the 1980s. So the other positive steps are fantastic efforts globally to provide frameworks for action. So this food system that links into sustainable development goals to improve food security has been now broken down into guiding principles for sustainable healthy diets, and there's very practical steps as actions for implementation. So I really recommend to read those reports. In conclusion, we need stronger focus on implementation and evaluation so that we're constantly checking how far we're progressing along that new pathway with the fork in the road. We need to increase the capacity, power and influence of public health in our region. That is happening with COVID, but build on that for non-communicable disease too. We need to better tackle the commercial determinants of health and to remember that success is possible, and hopefully we'll all meet this sweet spot. Thank you very much. I'll answer questions in person on the day, and here is some further reading for you. It's been a pleasure to join you today.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Amanda, for your great and interesting presentation. So we will discuss later, and then I remind all of the attendees, participants, to give the your question in the QA forum. I saw in the QA forum in below of your screen. Don't forget, write your name, institution, and to whom you want to ask. Yeah, we're still waiting for Dr. Salala. So before we continue our sessions, I think waiting for Dr. Salala, we still have time left, so we will have a little time break. We will show you the art performance by student choir of Faculty Public Health, who will sing a song, Prau Layar. This choir has often won championship from various international competitions. And also we have a continue with the commercial break from supported conference from Bank Tabungan Negara. So please, the organizing committee, to show in the screen the art performance by Public Health Student Choir.
Yo
This is where it all begins. The leap of faith. The first step to the journey. Towards the unknown. The challenging. The daunting. But when we're together, hand in hand, the journey becomes exciting. We're partners, you and I, together, facing your fears, pursuing your passion, breaking boundaries, building your future, overcoming challenges, celebrating every achievement. When we're together, we're unstoppable. When we're together, anything is possible. At BTN, we know the power of partnership. The good partner works with you intimately. Good partner knows what you need. A good partner always has your back. The partner for starting your dream family, building your dream home, realizing the dream. It takes courage to begin, but it takes encouragement to keep on going. So go on, dream big. We're with you every step of the way. You have a partner in BTN.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, all participants, now we continue again our session and move to the next speaker, Dr. Salala Rafael Ahmadova. She is the medical officer for communicable disease, WHO Indonesia, who will deliver her paper with the entitled New Normal Applicable for All Countries, Adjusting Public Health and Social Measures. Dr. Salala already joined? Oh, okay. Good morning, Dr. Salala. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm just trying to share my screen.
Okay. Before Dr. Salala presenting her paper, I would like to read his CV first. And okay, Dr. Salala Ahmadova, she is a medical doctor and Master of Public Health. Her experience, medical officer in communicable disease, WHO Indonesia, from May 2019 up to now, and medical officer in MDR, TB, WHO, WPRO from 2015 to 2019, and medical officer in TB in WHO of Papua New Guinea from 2011 to 2015. And she was medical officer in TB, WHO Mozambique, 2008 to 2011, and ICRC, Baku, Azerbaijan, from 1998 to 2008. Because Dr. Salala have another meeting, he just can join with us until, is it 11? So,
Yes.
okay. So we will give her time to present her paper for 20 minutes and directly followed by the discussion from the question from the participants. Okay, I remind again to all audience, if you have any question, so just write in the QA forum. Don't forget write your name, your institution, and to whom you want to ask, and the speaker will answer your question. Okay. Please come to Dr. Salala Ahmadova. This is your turn to present your paper for 20 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you hear me well? And do you see also screen, the slides?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
Thank you very much. And my today's presentation will focus on new normal applicable for all countries, and mainly I will talk about adjusting public health and social measures, which are very important in moving to the new normal. For COVID-19 response, it is very important that for all countries to control COVID-19 by slowing down the transmission of the virus, and also by preventing associated illness and also death. This can be done by implementing a comprehensive set of measures. And this comprehensive set of measures or comprehensive strategy should be tailored to the national context and also epidemiology of the virus. And this strategy usually composed of two aspects. First of all, these are the core public health measures, and the second is other public health and social measures. And core public health measures, they are very important to break the chain of person-to-person transmission. And I am sure you have heard about this one many times, that this includes identification of suspected cases, identification of the probable cases, isolation of the suspected and also confirmed cases, testing, and also clinical care for all cases, and also including tracing and quarantine of contacts, and also providing care to the contacts as well. And the other one is other public health, the social measures. These are the actions which are taken by individual levels, or by the communities, or by national local governments. And the purpose of all these actions are actually to suppress or stop community transmission of COVID-19. Public health and social measures, they also compose of four parts. First of all, the personal measures. And personal measures, I'm sure you also heard a lot about this one. This is frequent hand hygiene, then physical distancing, respiratory etiquette, use of masks, environmental cleaning, and disinfection, and also avoiding 3 C's. When we talk about avoiding 3 C's, we mean that avoiding the crowded places, avoiding the close contact settings, and also avoiding confined places with poor ventilation. Then there are also measures which we call it physical and social distancing measures in public, which includes the physical distancing, working from home, staying at home, also cancellation of the mass gatherings, and also avoiding again the very crowded places. The other one is a movement measures. and movement measures which limits the person's movement from one place to another place, and especially providing the guidance on the travel and also arranging the travel beforehand in order to avoid the congestion in many places. Then there are also special protection measures which are aimed to protect the vulnerable populations and also protected to special populations. And these groups includes persons at risk for more serious COVID-19 illness. These are mainly older people aged 60 and over, then the people with underlying medical conditions, like the people with diabetes, people with hypertension, obesity, and others. Then it also includes the people with social vulnerabilities, which includes migrant workers, homeless people, refugees, displaced people. It also includes people living in closed settings, like in detention places or in camps. Then also it includes people which has a higher occupational risk of exposure to COVID-19. These are mainly the staff who are working in institutional settings, healthcare workers, and frontline responders. In adjusting public health and social measures, usually the countries have to make the decision and have to find the balance. And for this one, they usually look, first of all, public health benefit. That will the country be able to protect the vulnerable, reduce the risk of the transmission or infection rate, and how the health system will manage the resurgence of the cases. Is the health system have the enough number healthcare workers? Does the health system have the ICU beds, isolation wards? Do they have the sufficient number of ventilators, medicines, or oxygen therapy equipment, and others? And at the same time, thinking about mitigating the impact of the economic crisis, because it has an impact, and also many businesses and also economists, they face the challenges, and also relieving the social consequences and other aspects as well. Therefore, for guiding principles for making the decision either to maintain the measures or lifting the measures, it needs, first of all, to be based on the very high quality and timely epidemiological data. If this data is available, then the careful risk assessment can be done. And then based on the data and based on the risk assessment, then the benefits and potential harms can be discussed, and also so that to make the decision. And the main purpose would be to not trigger the resurgence of the COVID-19 cases and not to jeopardize the public health of the population. At the same time, the stage approach needs to be followed up. It means that there should be certain steps that need to be taken until these measures, public health and social measures, can be adjusted. And the questions are asked that is the transmission is controlled to that level that the health system is actually manage the cases. Are there sufficient public health capacities in place so that to isolate, to find, then to provide the appropriate clinical care for all patients? And also, if the system is able to identify, trace, quarantine, and provide support to the contacts. At the same time, outbreak risks minimize, because when the number of the cases are going down, but there still will be the outbreaks. It can happen in highly vulnerable settings and workplaces, in public places, and also at the points of entry. And also, other communities, they are engaged so that they are ready to transit to the new normal. And for navigating the adjusting public health and social measures, we usually look at the three criteria. These are the epidemiological criteria, public health system criteria, public health surveillance criteria, and also health system criteria. For epidemiological criteria, the most important question which is asked is the pandemic being controlled? And for this one, usually the data are being analyzed and looking is the number of the confirmed and probable cases are continuously going down during the last 3 weeks, and at least 50% decline is happening or not. Is the number of the deaths due to the among confirmed cases and probable cases are also going down during the last 3 weeks. And how is the positivity rate? Is the positivity rate is less than 5%, but with the conditions that there is a comprehensive surveillance system is in place, meaning that is the system is able to test at least one suspected case per 1,000 population per week. And also looking at the health system criteria, how's the bed occupancy rate in the hospitals, ICU bed capacity rate, are the COVID-19 patients being treated based on the standardized national standards, and how about the non-COVID patients, are they also taking care, and also other questions which need to be answered. For public health surveillance, that is also several questions need to be answered. Is the system able to isolate at least 90% of suspect cases and test them within 48 hours? And is the system is able to trace contacts of at least 80% of new cases and quarantine them? And also, is the system is able to monitor at least 80% of the contacts for 14 days? So for the detailed information about all these questions are in this slide, but I will not go through of all these questions. And for transitioning to the new normal, this is a new way of living with the virus, and it doesn't mean that going back to the business as usual. And there's certain non-negotiable measures which should be in place and which is important for the new normal. As we said, that this surveillance and case detection to be in place, and certain indicators needs to be fulfilled. And like the one suspected case tested per 1,000 population per week, or results of tests are available within 24 or 48 hours. And currently, when we are talking about the testing of the cases, we are thinking about the utilization of the RT-PCR and also newly approved antigen RT-PCR, which can be the game changer and can provide the rapid information as soon as possible. And if the people are tested and the information is available, then the rapid isolation of the suspected and confirmed cases also will be possible. And also appropriate clinical care for those affected by COVID-19. And for WHO has a guidance document about the WHO clinical management of COVID-19 cases, which was published in May 2020. It provides clear information and what type of clinical care needs to be provided to the mild cases, moderate cases, severe cases, and also critical cases. And especially there was also a recent guidance document about using the corticosteroids in the treatment of the severe and also critical cases. Then there was also contact tracing and quarantining need to happen. Everything should happen at the same time, and all of them. One cannot be ignored over the other one. And of course, that's also the individual measures, like the basic protective measures when we talk about new normal. These are the wearing the mask, fabric masks for everyone, then medical masks for people over 60 years old and also who have the comorbidities. Then physical distancing, as you know, the WHO recommendation is at least 1 meter, and also frequent hand washing with soap and water, frequent disinfection of areas, and also avoiding the 3 C's. These are the crowded places, close contact settings, confined and also enclosed areas with poor ventilation. WHO has several guidance documents for the new normal in several places, and one of them is general guidelines for the workplaces. And for this one, the several steps need to be undertaken. These are the developing the policy and plan for management and employees, then requiring all staff to wearing the masks, installing the hand hygiene stations, applying the measures to facilitate physical distancing, and also reducing the physical meetings, avoiding the unnecessary travel, especially to areas where the community transmission is ongoing, and also sick employees should stay at home, and also having the isolation room in case any staff develops COVID-19 symptoms. Of course, the regular cleaning and disinfection, and also ensuring the appropriate ventilation in workplaces. And these guidelines, this can be found in the WHO website, and mainly these are the guidelines for COVID-19 management in hotels and other accommodation sectors. Consideration for public health and social measures in workplaces, consideration for public health and social measures in educational settings, then COVID-19 and food safety, guidance for food businesses. There is also WHO mass gathering risk assessment tool for sports and for other mass gathering events. Just the summary is that in general, that sufficient public health and health system capacities need to be in place, and also before adjusting the public health and social measures. And policy decisions to adjust public health social measures must be based on the data and the risk assessment. And decisions not based on evidence may jeopardize the health of the population. And of course, the engagement and empowerment of communities are very important to implement the health protocols by community members. Thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ahmadova, for your interesting paper and very essential information for us. Okay, so we'll continue for you, especially for you, directly discussion. Is there any question? Let me check. Okay.
Okay.
I have 4 questions. Okay. For Dr. Salala Rafael Ahmadova. So the first question is come from, so you still hear us?
Yes, I hear. Just could you please repeat the question so that I will know what questions are being asked? Okay.
Yeah. The first question is from Naftuha from University of Muhammadiyah Purwokerto. The first question is, how is special protection can be implemented in Indonesia, since Indonesia has a large and diverse population? That's the first question.
Okay.
You want to answer that or to just write the question?
I can answer just quickly. Yes.
Okay.
The measures which I have been talking that are applicable for all countries, including the Indonesia. The most important is the implementation of the all public health measures. This is a core public health measures, like the testing and also identification of the suspect cases, then providing the appropriate clinical care for the patients, and also isolation of the suspected and confirmed cases, contact tracing, and also quarantining of contacts for 14 days. These are the basic public health measures which needs to be undertaken. These are the very important things. And for this one is the most important is I mean, all of them are important, but everything starts with the finding the cases. And for finding the cases, therefore, testing needed to be strengthened, and especially there's a WHO target for this one. At least one suspected case per 1,000 population per week needs to be tested. And if the cases are found, then isolation can be taken in time. Then also contacts can be found in time, and the patients also can be provided clinical care in time. And also, of course, the personal protective measures, which I showed, that these are the physical distancing, frequent hand wash, then avoiding 3 C's, disinfection, wearing the masks and others. But these ones also need to be implemented by the community, all of them. Not just maybe some people only wearing the mask but not doing the hand washing, no, but all these measures to be implemented by everyone.
Yeah. Okay. So the second question is, are the epidemiological data presented at this time proven to be used as a reference for decision making, given that this pandemic is still increasing in number?
Yeah, data is very important, timely data and quality data. So that, and complete data is very important. And as I showed in the presentation, there should be the data for the epidemiological aspects to clarify is the epidemic under control or not, and also public health surveillance data also need to be taken into consideration, and also health system criteria need to be taken into consideration. And for this one also, in the slide I have shown that in order to adjust the public health and social measures, this data should be able to answer several questions. First, the question is the number of the cases, especially confirmed cases and the probable cases, are going down or not. Only data can tell us, and only the high quality and timely real-time data can tell us that is the number of the cases actually going down. Is the number of the deaths due to COVID-19 among the confirmed probable cases are going down, especially during the last 3 weeks. So only the quality data can provide this information. And also, there should be also information available so that we can make the judgment. Are the 80% of the cases are coming from contact list, or they can be linked to the known clusters. If this question can be answered positively, we can also say that most probably epidemic is under control. And also, if the system is able to isolate at least 90% of suspect cases and test them within 48 hours, if this question also can be answered positively, then we can also say that somehow the epidemic is going to be under the control. Thank you.
Okay. The next question from Ani, Faculty of Public Health, Diponegoro University. In several countries, including Indonesia, changing behavior during the new normal period is still difficult to do. Some of them consider the new normal back to normal and forget about control. So how can the public health approach can be carried out with this problem?
I agree that especially that changing behavior is a very difficult part, usually there have been a lot of studies in Indonesia, and they also looked at how many percentage of the people they are wearing the masks and how much is the coverage for the hand hygiene and other aspects. And for this one, I think risk communication is very, very important. Risk communication and community engagement, so that the information, right information, can be given in a timely manner, so that the public can understand the risks associated with their behavior. And also constant communication with the public via the different media channels, including TV and social media channels. They are also very important. I know that there's several groups in Indonesia. They are paying a lot of attention to the risk communication and community engagement. And I hope that it will have an impact on changing the behavior of the population, especially transitioning the new normal. Thank you.
Okay. And last one, how to make balance between public health and social measure in Indonesian context operationally?
This is a difficult question. For this one, again, it is the decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
And decision-making process, like in our real life, of how we make the decision, we try to gather as much as possible the evidence. And evidence comes from the data, and which is timely, which is the high quality. And if we get the right evidence, then it makes our life easier to make the decision. Because based on the evidence, we can conduct a very careful risk assessment for every aspect of our life. And we can see what are the benefits and what are the harms and balance it. This one, therefore, data is very important.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmadova, for your very interesting paper and very essential information and great discussion. Thank you very much for your time join with our conference here. And if you have time, if you have another meeting, please you can leave. Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Oh yeah, I don't know. Maybe organizing committee will give you provide you a certificate. Okay. Okay, yeah. This is a certificate for you from the committee. Okay. Thank you very much, and give applause to Dr. Ahmadova.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Now we continue to the last speaker. Yeah, Associate Professor Dr. Hanifa Mahardeni from Faculty of Public Health, Diponegoro University, and she will talk about new normal. Yeah. Now in this last speaker, last two speaker talking about a new normal in a COVID-19 pandemic. So this is talking about new normal in the context of occupational safety and health, the issues on the new adaptation of working life in Indonesia. Okay, Bu Hanifa, I would like to read your CV first. Hanifa Mahardeni, yeah, SKM, MPH, and PhD. She is a senior lecturer from Faculty of Public Health, Diponegoro University, Department of Occupational Health and Safety. Her education, first SKM is graduated from Diponegoro University, Faculty of Public Health, and her MPH graduated from University of the Philippines, and her PhD from University of South Florida, USA. Her career, Dean, Faculty of Public Health, Diponegoro University, from 2015 to 2019. Associate Professor, Faculty of Public Health, Diponegoro University, 2009 until present. President of Indonesian Public Health Professional Union, Persakmi, 2008 to 2017. And member of National Council of Occupational Safety and Health, 2017 to 2020, and member of International Commission on Occupational Health from 2006 until present. Okay, this is your time, Dr. Hanifa Mahardeni. It's your turn to deliver your presentation for 20 minutes. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Dr. Zafra Shaluhia, and thank you, everyone. And then I would like to present the current hot topics on new normal, as mentioned by previous speaker too. And then this is the new normal in the context of occupational health, safety, issues on the new adaptation of working life in Indonesia. As we know that new normal in Indonesia is switched to our special term, that is adaptasi kebiasaan baru. The COVID-19 pandemic changed the way people typically work. The new normal is a challenge to balance working life and survival strategy from the pandemic and the economic activities. And then the first statement, new normal, was voiced out, if I'm not wrong. This is in the press conference, transition to a new normal during the COVID-19 pandemic must be guided by public health principles. That was on April 16, 2020. And then President Jokowi made a statement on the new normal to get back to work. Then the government launched some circular letters, and from the Ministry of Trade has issued a circular letter number 12/2020 on restoring trade activities during the COVID-19 pandemic and the new normal. Then this circular letter guides and protocols for the business establishments to open, such as mall, entertainments and entertainment centers. And then it was followed by the Minister of Religious Affairs that issued a circular letter number 15/2020 on guidelines for organizing religious activities in houses of worships. realizing the productive but COVID-19 safe society during a pandemic, which effectively allows houses of worship to reopen if it is deemed safe by its respective head of provincial, regencies, city or district. For the COVID-19 task force, and as long as the houses of worship implement a strict health and hygiene protocols. Then the subjects and method to write this paper. This paper derived data from the online documents, online news, webinars on YouTube, Twitter posts on the new normal dynamic at work related to COVID-19 in Indonesia. The qualitative approach was utilized to gather the data, and subsequently the study explored the topic and contents modeling of the new normal and new adaptation at work during the COVID-19 pandemic. Then what are the results? From the Twitters, there are pros and contrasts regarding new normal have been starting since the statement from President Jokowi to get back to work with the existence of COVID-19, but has to follow the protocol to prevent its transmission. What are the negatives issues on Twitter? There is a very top retweets issues that is stated Jokowi will twist the failure to contain corona with the normal terms. So this is from Indonesia Abnormal Hashtags on Twitter, tweeted on May 26, 2020. And then, however, some are countered by positive sentiment, mostly came from people who found a difficult situation during the social restriction. For example, this is a top retweeted. The hashtags is Rakyat Dukung New Normals. That means the community support new normal. So what is the post? Let us get back to normal. And then also WHO has 6 precautions to implement new normal. That was also presented by previous speaker, Dr. From WHO. And then the first transmission on the coronavirus must be controlled. Second, the health system capacities are in place to detect, test, isolate, treat every case and every contact, and etc. But these 6 precautions isn't too popular in the Indonesian social media. And then what are the trending posts on Facebook? The new normal term in Indonesia with the hashtag of adaptasi kebiasaan baru was posted by 15,000 people. And then this post came from the official Facebooks and then government public figures such as Bupati or Mayor or Regents, and then health activists, academic community with the health backgrounds. And then the message contained mask, social distancing, and hand hygiene. There is also a pro and contrast on Facebook, but this is not easily visible because of the interface is different from the Twitter. And then this is the example of very popular post on Facebook from the official sites. And then this is from the individual, and this is Dr. Edi Barutu, got so many likes, and he is the regent of some a regency in Indonesia. And then this is from CD Kalang. And then there is also post from Health Safety Environmental Community of Indonesia. This is Raden Ardiwarsa Saputra. And the results from Twitter now. Analysis from Twitter usually use Unprint Media or API, Application Programming Interface, and then trending search using scraping, and then topic search. Some report tells about the sentiments and topic modeling, and then one of the most influential Twitter analysts in Indonesia is Ismail Fahmi of Drone Unprint and Media Kernels Indonesia founder. Then what are the top tweets according to Ismail on 29 May 2020? The post from Firsa Besari, normal kebal godaan or resist from temptation, and then Ozark Moma to stop calling new normal, and then Firsa Besari again new normal di alam or in the nature, and then Real Eric Carmen hate the phrase new normal, and then Chel Jokno questioning the normal in public health. And then how Ismail Fahmi presented his analysis, it is very sad that the contra statement got more engagement than the pro new normal statements, because some are very negative sentiments, suspecting a negative what from the announcement from the government. So this is the area of the opposition pro, and then this is from the government pro. Search top 20 tweets with the Indonesia and new normal and kembali bekerja. Mostly came from the business institutions and then dominated by the new normal pro. For example, Okazon News, and on May 27, are you ready for the new normal? And then some workers in Indonesia have been doing the work from home for approximately 3 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And now Indonesians must be prepared to live life in the new normal era, and then including to work in the new normal era. And then the results from YouTube has a very enriched in the contents of adaptasi kebiasaan baru di tempat kerja or adjusting new habit at work. The Bapenda Jabar got a very big views, like 800 something views in 3 months, and then Puskesmas Sukaraja, Humas Kesmas, which is from the Ministry of Health, and then Dwi Artini, and then Directorate Promkes and PM Kemenkes Kemenkes Republik Indonesia, and then from Pertamina, and then from Satlantas Kaira, and then Bapalkes Cikarang, PDAM Tirtawaning Kota Bandung, and then Rita Nurlita. Then Humas Kesmas BNPB Indonesia, Suhaimi News, and then Kemenkes, and then Papa Odon, Dr. Iswadi, then Puskesmas Lumbang. That's from the source of new adaptation and get back to work. And this is what the company made for the new normal. This is a courtesy of PT Mas Sumbiri that was also presented in the YouTube webinar Perempuan Pekerja di Industri dalam Adaptasi Baru COVID-19. So this is female workers in industry and in new adaptation of COVID-19. This is also supplied by our alumni, one of our alumni, she is the compliance executive, senior executive officer in this company. And then this is also from her presentations on webinar at YouTube. So there are some installment in the industry that were installed just right after the pandemic, and the workers have to adjust with these facilities, as well as sitting on the dining table should not be in the position of face-to-face. And then the discussion, the social media post on new normal or adaptasi kebiasaan baru related to COVID-19 pandemic are mostly based on the need to get back to work and to secure economic sustainability. The occupational safety and health posts are mostly available from YouTube, but on Twitter and FB are still scarce. And the YouTube discussions and information on safety and health related to new normal comes from the government institutions, university, professional health organization or associations, webinars, and then very few from the individual content. The posts from opposition groups that targeted more engagement play a big challenge for the government to succeed the policy and guidance. There is an urgent need to boost the innovative communications strategy to curb the opposition of COVID-19 containment and related direction. And then the new normal policy in Indonesia was twisted to the translation of getting back to normal life, then undermine the fight against COVID-19 transmission by the Contra group. The misinterpretation of social media posts leads people in Indonesia to neglect the potential COVID-19 transmission and
What happened with Dr. Hanifa? Yes, because of the signal, maybe. Hello? Kenapa? Hello? Okay. Okay, there is something happened with the signal, maybe signal.
Sorry, maybe there was an internet problem. Buzara, is it my presentation on this slide has been recorded or not yet? So I would like to repeat, there is no clue on the post whether the new normal would be shifted at the end of crisis or in the opposite of a lingering crisis. This study did not gather data from the API developer. This is my preliminary study, and we are now shifting toward API developer on new normal, but we are still working on it. But
Okay. Again, there is a problem with the Dr. Hanifa's internet problem maybe. Okay, so we're still waiting. Dr. Hanifa's continue her presentation. Okay, for ladies and gentlemen, I remind you again, if you have any question for the first speaker, second speaker, and the last speaker, so you just write down in the QA forum. Please write your name, your institution, and your question, and whose speaker you want to address your question. Okay, so now we move to the discussion. I think Professor Yotin have received many questions, and also Professor Amandali. Okay, now we come to the discussion session. I give a time for the first speaker to answer the question. And how many questions already? Yeah, please. Where's Dr. Yotin? Dr. Yotin is still okay. So you can answer the question from the first one until the how many? Four questions. Okay, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Sura. Important reason that we may need to use mixed methodologies between quantitative and qualitative method is to make our finding reasonable for a policy recommendation or to produce new equipment, new product or innovation things. It can be related to complementarily extension and triangulation, including with support our quantitative result. At the same time, we can apply when we want to develop some new indicator that we can use grounded theory approach first and then construct quantitative and confirm by structural equation model. For the first question, I think from Dr. Farid. And the second, what is the difference between parallel approach and embedded? Parallel mostly used when we want to evaluate our program implementation under the concept of convergent. The embedded means that we want to examine something or investigate something by using quantity and quality approach. For the quantitative research methodologies, we need to employ under multi-level analysis, and independent variable may come from several sources such as GPS, aerial photo, precipitation, surface, many approach, and many data from several sources at the same time. For qualitative research methodologies, use several approach to collect data, not only participation and observation, focus group discussion, in-depth interview. At the same time, we may need to using some documentary research to serve this. And embedded is that we try to compete something that we really want to know. As a result, we have to use several methods to several equations to estimate. Now for the third person, although mixed method can provide comprehensive data, it's often difficult for young researchers to do it. For the young scholar who just start working with methodology, they are starting from quantitative approach and qualitative research methodology. It's normally sequential exploratory. For example, you may starting with quantitative using some what we call simple multivariate analysis. It can be logistic regression or multi-level. After that, you may go to the community where you are collecting quantitative and set up some qualitative by selecting only some variable from your result and then investigate more again why that behavior, why that thing happening. Okay. Let me share some. They not allow me to share, but doesn't matter.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah.
And for in terms of difference between let me share this one to answer for the young scholar.
Yes.
This effect of pregnant mother work on first year infant death in Thai prospective cohort. Tiwarat Torcharan is my PhD, used to be my PhD student. She examined this by quantitative method and then published in Journal of Population and Social Study. And I also suggest her to examine more about, this thing. Look at this. This is the young scholar approach. Okay, a few minutes. Her result is like this. Okay, her result is like this. Speaking about the mother who were laborer, comparing to the mother who were clerk and work in a factory. Okay, factory. This one is primary method survival. Okay.
Yeah.
People who were clerk and factory worker, chance of the child to survive is high, while those who were mother and chance of baby to die is, to survive is very low, chance to die is high. For this reason, we want to know why baby who were from agricultural mother and laborer, chance to die is high. We cannot conclude by ourselves. As a result, we need to go to the grounded theory to collect information, to explore again and complement and support, okay? So that multivariate analysis can help for young scholar, and then grounded theory approach can support as well. You can practice it. And what is the next question? Could you please showing me the question?
Next question?
Yes. I think it related to positivism.
Yes. Yeah. This one.
Yeah.
The question is, it's with regard to the paradigm in scientific research, positivism, post-positivism, and constructivism. In terms of difference between them, how to choose which to use to a qualitative research, and what are the practical differences, implication between them?
Yes. Yeah, we mix two approach at the same time. The positivism allow us to providing some hypotheses because of we already know that which is our dependent variable and which one is our independent variable and which one is covariate, so that we're able to set up hypotheses that related to independent variable after that examines. Now, if we want, we may use qualitative approach under the phenomenological approach, to support, because of the phenomenological approach allow us to go to the ground and learning about new phenomena or some tacit knowledge. After that, we bring that information to explain, to support, to clarify or complement our positive result from testing hypothesis. Yes, we are able to mix now. Many journals accept this, particularly health journal. Yes.
Okay. Any more questions? No. Okay, thank you, Dr. Yotin, for your answering your many questions from the participants.
Yes.
And thank you very much. Next to Professor Amandali, you still here? You still join with us?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm enjoying this conference. It's very well run and
the
technology.
Yeah. So this is the first question from Agus. So maybe you can read it. Indonesia has a large virus population, particularly we have more than 50%. Do you have any suggestion how to develop nutrition for children, especially Indonesia? Now we have a stunting, 36%. We have a stunting children, with stunting. Okay, please, you can answer the first question first.
Yes, I think in this instance, I know internationally what's been done But what is really important is that Indonesia is already on a very good path. You've got good political support for addressing undernutrition and malnutrition in your country. Not all countries have that. You have resources that were directed to this place, and you have the outposts, and I can't remember the name of the special centres right throughout Indonesia for maternal and child health, but very good primary care networks. So, you know, technically everything is being done, but we're just seeing that some places have got better capacity and more assistance, perhaps closer to their centre. They're getting more perhaps support. I think a real challenge now is with COVID, there can be a refocusing away from chronic conditions towards acute conditions, and we must remember that they're very interrelated. People do better in with the coronavirus infection if they're well nourished, if they're not obese, if they don't have comorbidities. So it's really important to maintain the investment in addressing undernutrition. At the same time, there's this incredible demand on our health systems globally to tackle the pandemic. So it's a very difficult and challenging time. And I am worried about how long-term consequences might be affected by this.
Yeah. Okay. Second question. Apart from the current unhealthy diet problem, another problem is ensuring that our food is safe from chemical contaminants. Yeah. What is your opinion of this matter related to food and nutrition security?
Well, certainly all forms of food safety are important. So as well as the chemical contaminants, there's also biological contaminants with bacterial and virus infections as well. Mm-hmm. The problem is that globally, we do invest a lot in short-term safety of food compared to long-term safety of food, which is the chronic consumption of unhealthy options. So depending on the country, the balance between their need to prioritise those two areas will vary. In Australia, we've actually got a problem with our whole food regulatory system is about 95% focused on ensuring food is biologically and chemically safe. We have huge surveys looking at chemical pollutants of our food that are conducted every 4 or 5 years, but we don't have dietary surveys only every 5 or 10 years. What's really worrying is when you look like all conditions globally where you're trying to make a comparison between investment decisions, getting an idea of the burden of disease due to each of those factors is really important. In Australia, where we invest in food safety more than nutrition, we have actually the burden of disease due to poor diet in Australia due to poor nutrition. So long-term food, our long-term food consumption is unsafe, is actually 10,000 times the effect that we see. So the burden of disease due to that short-term effect, yet our whole system is set up to protect our food and make sure it's safe in the short term. So the problem is we need a balance of both. And I think often we over-focus on ensuring food safe in the short term and forget about the long-term consequences and how important they are. But it will really vary on the country and of the situation in which we're finding ourselves.
Okay. Next question. What do you think would be the best approach to educate community, especially those who didn't have a lot of knowledge related to healthy food, to make them consider eating healthy food, plant-based food, and also consume food according to their energy needs that you mentioned in your presentation.
Well, what we've found that even in the most well-resourced economies, there's a really strong focus on education, but what we often miss is the practical aspects to make it easier for people to know about food literacy and how to prepare and cook food and have resources that enable them to prepare and cook food. In some apartments in New York, you might have heard they're making apartments that don't even have kitchens anymore. People just eat out all the time. So we need food literacy, but internationally, most available evidence shows that the major driver of poor diet isn't knowledge or lack of knowledge, it's the poor food environments in which we find ourselves, where the unhealthy options are usually the ones that are most advertised and considered desirable. They play on our taste by being high in sugar, high in fat, or salty, so that we've got an innate desire for the first two components of those, sugar and fat, and we learn to seek salt. So they increase the palatability and the acceptability of those foods. They're often perceived to be more affordable, and they're certainly more available in our communities. So it's hard for people to go against that, to choose the healthier options. And what we really need to do is improve our food environments. So we have that adage, the healthier choice is the easiest choice. And that requires legislation, it requires regulation, and it requires a huge community effort to see the value in improving our environments. So unfortunately, education helps, but we're going to need a lot more help to improve our food environments before we have a transformation of our diets towards healthier, sustainable, more equitable intake.
Okay. Hearing about commercial determinant of health is mind-blowing. Can you explain more about commercial determinant of health?
Well, probably the easiest way to think about the commercial determinants of health, it's hard with food. People often have trouble grasping that food can be unhealthy. But when you think about the activities of the tobacco lobby and cigarette companies, many of those tobacco companies are actually now food companies. They're owned. In that graph I showed you about understanding our interests, they've got similar ownership, similar shareholders, and similar drive to make profits for their shareholders. So the commercial determinants of health are those activities and strategies that are used by the private sector to increase the profitability of selling their goods, whether or not they do harm to health. And, you know, we know what some of the tactics are. So things like advertising in Australia, we're starting to see things like health washing. We have unhealthy items that are promoted as being healthy. For example, potato crisps. A company might just reduce the amount of salt by a very small amount in the potato chips and market them as being healthier choices. But it's like making healthy cigarettes. There's really no such thing as a healthy potato chip. The same happens with greenwashing. We see companies that market their products saying that they're healthy for the environment, but they might be very, very high in saturated fat, in added sugar or salt. So it's important to think, what are they really selling here? Often those corporate social responsibility programs look like there's benefit. It's very hard, particularly for countries that are low and middle income countries, when a profitable global multinational food company comes across and wants to partner and invest. Sometimes it's difficult to see that the long-term consequences is actually worse health for communities. But Indonesia is at a place where it really is a crossroad. You have a choice about the way, about who you want to partner with and the way that you want to progress to promote healthy foods in your society. So some of the people that, I think one of the early papers that looked at commercial determinants of health was Rob Moody in the Lancet in 2013, and he actually called his paper Profits and Pandemics. And it was quite prescient about the changes that we would see with some companies seeing the COVID pandemic as an opportunity to make money and actually sell more of their foods at the moment, because they might have a greater shelf life, be able to be stored in people's houses when they can't get out to shop so often. So it's a very complicated and emerging area, and to me, I think we will soon have evidence that commercial determinants of health are as important as the social determinants of health, and we really need to be addressing those and be mindful.
And need for more research about that, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Amanda. Thank you very much for your answering all questions of the participants. Okay, next, Dr. Hanifa is already here. Yeah. Okay. So there are some questions from participants.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay.
How about my voice?
Okay. I can read the question for you. Okay. The first question is, do you think that social media data would be a good alternative for public health research as compared to the conventional survey method for data collection? That's the first question. You want to answer first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I would like to answer one by one. Is it okay?
Yeah.
And yeah, Budita, nowadays, if we want to really influence the people behavior, I think the king of the data research is actually the expression and the phenomenon from the social media, because it can reflect how people perceive the situation and also what kind of response, contra or pro, from the governments or from expected behavior of the COVID-19 pandemic especially.
Yeah.
That's the first question, the first answer of question.
Second question, I interest on your presentation about opposition group had a big admire. So why government or stakeholder whom take care about COVID-19 cannot attract people to obey their information? How about economic issue between Indonesian people, which can maybe attract people to not obey the information? From Muhammad Faraz, please.
Okay. Yeah, Mas Muhammad Faraz. This is the problem. When we see the content from the official, from the government, I have a little, how do we call, an impression that the innovative delivery is less than the influencers, especially those who are very like top as YouTubers or Twitters or FBs or Instagrams. I don't know why. I think the government have to, the government officials have to move on, or to really look at outside what are going on, because we cannot do business as usual, because the speed of information technology nowadays is very fast. So when we compare with the television of Republic Indonesia, Radio Republic Indonesia, they have less creativity or innovativeness than the private companies. So I think this is must be considered by the governments. And then the economic issues between Indonesians, which can maybe attracted people not to obey the information. This is very good question, but anyhow, we have to consider the economic situation with regard to the new normal and make sure that people get information although they are not on social media. And I think we all member of the society have a responsibility to join the effort on how to assure the new normal, but people also know and obey the COVID-19 containment. This is my answer for Mas Faras. And the third and fourth questions I cannot see.
Okay. The third question from Eka. Many people still ignore health protocols. According to Dr. Denny Hanifa, will socialization about COVID-19 on social media contribute positively? Are there things that need to be considered to deliver COVID-related content on social media?
Yes, exactly. When we look at the proportion of the contra group, I think this will be negatively affect our effort to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think the power of social media should be regarded seriously by the government, and as well as us, the education and academic communities, who also have a responsibility to spread the positive message on social media. I hope this answers your question, Deeka. And then for Bukris Wardani, how to overcome negative sound or sentiments of social media in the pandemic, because many hoax information could make negative impact to handle COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, Bukris, this is also my problem when I face some WhatsApp groups. There are so many hoax are roaming, and sometimes we are the player of minority. We have to really dare to post what is truth. And don't worry, there will be a lot of contra postings to encounter our post too. Especially when I started to post how to behave in the new normals, that mostly the WhatsApp groups that are that have the member of the business community, but I mean this is like small scale business enterprise or informal sectors. They're really against the protocol of COVID-19 and against the social restrictions. They support the new normal, but they don't get what should they do. So I think all members of the society have a responsibility, especially we are the health society, who have a responsibility also to spread the positive message on social media, not just on WhatsApp group, but also from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and also Instagrams. If we don't rule the social media, then the hoax and the contraproductives will be the rulers. So that's very important to be the king in social media to really succeed the health messages. Thank you. Bu Zahra, I think your speaker is muted. Dr. Saluhia, your speaker
Okay.
is muted.
Thank you very much for all speakers who have already answered all questions from participants and give valuable contribution to our session. And I would like to say thank you for Professor Yotin, Dr. Yotin, and thank you again for Professor Amandali and for Dr. Salala Ahmadova, and the last one is Dr. Hanifa Maherdeni. Thank you very much for your valuable contribution to our conference, and also to the participants. Thank you for your active participation in this session. May I request for all of you to give a big round of applause to all presenters and all participants who actively participate in this discussion. Okay? Yeah. Finally, I just want to give a little summarize for all discussion, presentation. The first one is we have various topic actually. The first speaker is from Professor Yotin. He talked about mixed methodology. That means what is mixed methodology? That means mixed method in terms of design and multiple methods of collecting data, quantitative, qualitative data collection, including secondary data and also geographic data. And also the third one is mixed model, multi-level analysis, and questionnaire information link between qualitative and quantitative and qualitative guideline. And the reason for mixed method is triangulation. That means parallel, quanti and quali, and complementary, quanti first and qualitative to support detailed discussion from the quantitative. And then development, qualitative first and then quantitative for seeking for some indicator, and also the last one, expansion, some new findings that need more clarification. That's from Professor Yotin. And then Professor Dr. Amandali is very important information about the nutrition, talking about the road step to healthy, equitable, and sustainable nutrition policy action. She explained from should something be done, what should be done, and how should be done, and what being done. And she give also positive examples about that. As we know, poor diet leads to malnutrition in all its form. Yeah, undernutrition and also for nutrition in all countries are affected, including Indonesia. We should identify the problem in our region. Climate change affect our diet, and diet also influence to climate change that relate to food insecurity. That means include food availability, affordability, accessibility, and acceptability. He concluded that we need stronger focus on implementation and evaluation, and increase capacity, power, and influence public health people in our region. Yeah, and need to better tackle the commercial determinant of health. It's important thing. And Dr. Salala Ahmadova talk about new normal applicable for all countries, adjusting public health and social measures. She gives summary of key messages that are sufficient public health and health system capacities should be in place, and outbreak need to be minimized before adjusting public health and social measures. And the second, policy decision to adjust public health and social measures must be based on risk and data. Decision not based on evidence or not based on evidence may be jeopardize the health of community. We should engage and empower communities to implement the health protocols. And the last one, Dr. Hanifa Maherdeni talk about new normal in the context of occupational health and safety in working life in Indonesia. She has done a research through collecting data from online documents, news, and social media. Interestingly, the results show that social media posted a new normal related COVID-19 mostly focus on get back to work again to secure economic aspect rather than occupational health and safety topic that is very rare discussed in the social media. Only available in YouTube channel from webinar conducted by university professional organization. And her recommendation is for future COVID-19 eradication policies should pay attention to social media posts. That's the brief summarization. And then thank you very much again for all amazing speakers and all of you participants who have attended this session until the end, including who have participated actively in this session. Thank you very much to the organizing committee that already helped us to make this session run smoothly. I apologize if there is something that is not comfortable while running this session because of the internet things. Hopefully, we will see you again virtually tomorrow in the next session. Before I close this session, again, the organizing committee will provide the certificate for each speaker as an appreciation of their amazing presentation. Please show it in the screen, the certificate for the speakers. The first certificate is for Associate Professor Dr. Yotin Sawangdi. This is for you. Okay, give applause. Thank you very much, Professor Yotin. See you again sometime in the next seminar.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. And the next certificate, please. Yeah, for Professor Amandali. Thank you very much for your great presentation. Thank you very much, and see you again sometime in the next seminar. Hopefully, offline seminar. It's not online.
Yes, hopefully in person next time.
Yeah, in person.
Everybody stay well and safe.
Yeah. And then the third is Dr. Salala Rafael Ahmadova. She's already leave. Okay. And the last one, the last certificate, please.
Dr. Hanifa.
Yeah. For Associate Professor Dr. Hanifa Maherdeni. Yes, this is for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saluhia, and thank you very much, Dr. Martha, and thank you very much, the Dean.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you for all presenters, and see you again in the next seminar, in the offline seminar. And thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I give this session back to the MC.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Dr. Yotin.
Yeah, bye-bye, Dr. Mata. Thank you so much. Miss everyone.
How's the Thailand?
We are still nervous about COVID-19.
Yeah.
The same situation, the same.
Same, yeah.
See
Okay.
you. Appreciate it. Radikap.
Yeah, Sadika.
Dr. Mata, everyone. Yes. Yes.
Bye, Dr. Lee. Bye, Dr. Yatin.
Yeah.
Dr. Farid too. Radikap.
Okay, thank you, Giselle. Please take.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zahra Saluhia, for the amazing session. And now we will symbolically give you the certificate. So, our chairman, Dr. Martha, the floor is yours. Okay, Dr. Martha, please unmute your microphone.
Okay, thank you, Giselle. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sahroh Jaluhia. With a great honor and appreciation, we hand in this certificate to you. You have led this first plenary session successfully.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. We get back to the MC. Please, Giselle.
Thank you, Dr. Marta. And before proceeding to the next agenda, we would like to take a virtual photo session. So everyone, please turn on your camera and strike a pose. Okay, turn on your camera, please. Okay, I'm gonna start the countdown. 1, 2, 3. Okay, got it? Thank you, everyone. And now I would like to once again remind for all the audience, please don't forget to fill the attendance form, and the link will be given at the chat section by the end of the session. And now we will have 2 commercial breaks from our supporter, InBio and BioPharma. Please enjoy.
Bu, kenapa sih kita harus divaksin? Kamu masih inget nggak waktu pertama kali sekolah di rumah? Waktu itu dunia diserang oleh virus corona dan banyak orang jatuh sakit. Untuk mengurangi penularannya, kita harus di rumah dulu. Dampaknya banyak yang kehilangan pekerjaan, rumah sakit penuh, dan kita jadi sulit keluar rumah.
Kita lawan keberadaan virus COVID, masyarakat produktif dan aman dari COVID.
Kita lawan corona dengan mengikuti protokol kesehatan. Jaga jarak, pakai masker, rajin cuci tangan, makan makanan bergizi, olahraga, dan tentunya vaksinasi untuk daya tahan tubuh kita. Sekarang, BioPharma lagi berjuang membuat vaksin corona untuk kita semua. Supaya kamu bisa sekolah kayak dulu. Hore! Sekarang giliran kakak ya. Oke, Bu.
Mari kita lawan penyebaran COVID-19 dengan disiplin diri agar merdeka dari rasa takut.
Okay, I have some information regarding the oral presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, please pay close attention. For oral presenters, join the meeting back on 1 p.m. in the Zoom rooms, which already mentioned in the book of program. You can see the room IDs and password in the book of program. Once again, for oral presenters, please join the meeting back on 1 p.m. in the Zoom rooms, which already mentioned in your book programs. For the room IDs and password is in the book of program. In each room, there will be one of the best presenter, and don't forget that during the closing ceremony tomorrow, the winner of the greatest oral presenter in this third ICOPH TCD will be announced. So, good luck, everyone. Finally, this is the end of the plenary session. See you on the next plenary session at 8 a.m. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Have a great afternoon.